Hello and welcome back once again to the Inquisitor podcast with me, Marcus Kauke. Today, my guest is Ron Kmetovicz, and we're going to be talking about finance. We're talking about building financial independence through investment and using a strategy to ensure that you're spreading your risk, you're not taking undue risk, and you're also avoiding the trap of the seduction that finance is built on. Finance tries to seduce you into handing over your money so that they can leverage it, lend it out many, many times over. And they're often the winners, let's be honest about it. You don't see many people at the top of the likes of BlackRock, Fortress, and State Street who are poor. And there's a reason for that. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to delve into what sound investment looks like. So it's not our usual fare, but given the level of volatility in the market and the level of uncertainty, I think this is something that many of you could probably do with a listen. I know I could. We're going to dig deep on what works, what doesn't work, and we're going to explore how to behave in times of uncertainty and volatility. So without any further ado, Ron, welcome.
Well, it's good to be with you, Marcus. I think we're in for an enjoyable chat about, financial independence. I am a product of a multiple set of folks that have led me to be financially independent. So I have a few things to say about the subject. So looking forward to some of the questions you have about it.
Well, let's start with 60 seconds on your background and how you came to write your book.
Okay, well, the background is farm boy out of Pennsylvania. Headed off to become an engineer, and the engineer in me went out to Silicon Valley in the 70s, and I worked at Hewlett-Packard Laboratories for about almost 20 years. And then I went out on my own, did my own companies, did my own entrepreneurial work, and time keeps passing by. And I'm older now, I'm 78 years old. And, I've had a good ride, no doubt about it. Worked hard through it, had some fun along the way. But I also have children, grandchildren, and we even have great-grandchildren. So the book is written for the great-grandkids. And I'm also sharing the knowledge that has served us well as a family with others that are interested in maybe applying some of the principles that we follow.
Excellent. Well, let's start with the definition of what financial independence is and what it isn't.
Okay, well, you'll probably get different definitions from different people about it. But with me, it's multiple revenue streams. And multiple revenue streams mean that you're not working in a paycheck to paycheck world with one revenue stream. So if you have two revenue streams, you're well on your way to financial independence, because if one goes south, you still have something else to keep you going. And in the capitalist structure we live in, okay, it's a pay to live society. Okay, if you don't have money, you don't live very well. So pay to live, okay, multiple revenue streams. You get a couple of those going for yourself, and your life becomes pretty enjoyable.
Okay, so at what point does it become feasible for somebody to enter into this marketplace and start investing? Because obviously if people are starting out, they're on a relatively low paycheck and there may not be a great deal of money to spare.
Well, the entry point, I try to get the kids involved with what I have to say as early as I can. But I would say the 8th grade to the 10th grade in high school is the starting point. If you can get started there, okay, you're on your way. That is it, because the multiple revenue streams at the young age is, hey, mom and dad are paying all the bills, so that's revenue stream one, mom and dad. Okay, the second revenue stream is you hook up with some jobs, okay, and start making a couple of bucks doing what you think you like. That's revenue stream two, and of that job that you're squirreling away when you're 16 years old, you save 20% of what you're making and you put it into what I call a ghost account, and that account is going to start growing for you. And I have had high school kids that come out of high school with a pile of cash somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000. Okay, that's not unusual. Okay, and they did it on 3 revenue streams. So, now one of those is going to come to an end sooner or later. Some of them stretch it out to 27 or 28, the mom and dad
Or
ride.
40.
Okay. But you're off and running. So if you have this ghost account, okay, that guy's going to be chugging along for you. You'll have a job, okay, of some type that'll be chugging along. You'll be putting money into your ghost account. Somewhere along the line, you get an idea of what you're going to do for a little side hustle or a gig. With me, it was music. I thought I could be a musician. It didn't work out. It cost me money instead of make me money, but I had a couple of other streams to support me. But anyway, it's that freewheeling channel and cash flow and the aspect of investing that I really hang my hat on is that there are ways to take the hard-earned money you make, put it safely into growth accounts, and you have to do nothing and they still keep growing. And you wait 20 or 30 years and you're living really well for the remainder of your life, okay, just off the investment account. So that's why I wrote this book. My kids know how to do it. My grandkids know how to do it. My great grandkids don't yet. Okay, maybe the kids and the grandkids will teach them. Okay, but it's just putting it out there in simple terms so folks can do it.
Okay, so a lot of people, more so in the US than over here, have been tempted and seduced by the finance industry into trading themselves. What's your response to that?
Well, my first response to anyone that doesn't have a significant amount of training in business and financial analysis, the mathematics behind it, the involvement behind that, is to not go there. Okay, I don't think folks without the skill set should even dabble in markets, okay, with individual symbols. It's a crazy world. It's a hard one to win in. Few people without the math basis and the business basis can succeed in it. Some do, they get lucky, but it's rare. And so the business training is essential if you're going to go into symbols, okay, other than mutual funds or balanced ETFs. So I'm a balanced guy, a mixture of stocks and bonds from the beginning. 60% stocks, 40% bonds. Pick a good fund that does that, okay, and stick with it for life. It's hard for folks to think that simplistic, but it's a strategy that works. And you don't have to do anything except throw money at the account.
Okay, so looking at the book, you talk about the pathways to financial ruin. Let's just do a quick whistle-stop tour of what that looks like first.
Well, I just finished reading. I read my email from readers of my book this morning, and I got one. It made me chuckle. But the essence of the mail was, my nephew, 30 years old, has a problem with sloth, gluttony, and lust, and so I kindly sent him a copy of the book and suggest he read it. but that's the kind of thing I touch on. I mean, the behaviors, I call these, it's the behaviors to abandon. You will not be financially independent if you are engaged in any of the 7 deadly sin behaviors. That's almost a certainty. If greed drives you, sloth, gluttony, lust, wrath, envy, or pride, okay, drive your life, okay, forget about being financially independent. It won't happen. So I call those the behaviors to abandon. Just boom, be done with them. Okay, for some folks, it never happens. They're never financially independent. And they might be happier than I am. I don't know. I can't judge that.
Well, I think to a large degree, the 7 deadly sins are reactions, and they don't really take into account people who can defer gratification. So, you've got your 7 heavenly virtues of humility, kindness, patience, diligence, generosity, temperance, and chastity. And the challenge there isn't really about the morality of it all. I think it's about the ability to discern what is a good and a bad decision in the moment. How does one develop the discipline and the perspicacity to be able to make a good decision well in the moment, even with limited information?
Well, how does one become virtuous? Is the question you're asking me, Marcus?
Yeah,
I think is
it
that.
is. That's a fair and thoughtful way.
Yeah, I thought about that when I was writing the book. Should I approach this in a hard hitting way, or a more supportive, constructive fashion? And I decided to go with the hard hit. Okay, to just point out the behaviors that are just really not that good. But on the side of virtue, my main view of that is shaped by the people that you are associated with. If you are involved with people that are virtuous, if the environments that you work in are virtuous, you're probably going to do pretty well yourself in your decision making skills, and we'll grow through and develop a very keen sense of what's best to do, what you should avoid, as a function of time. And that comes, I think, from other people mostly. You're not going to learn that from a book. And I don't think there's going to be a video on the www that'll teach you that.
There are plenty of moralizers out there, but not necessarily pragmatists.
Well, yeah, you probably don't know them personally either, right?
So then let's have a look at the pathways to financial success. What do they look like?
Well, I look at 14 of them, but there's two that stand out above all others. And they are hard work, number one, and number two is supporting the hard work with education, training, and learning. And that's becoming more and more important now in this age of AI that people are. I'm getting a lot of questions about what should I do? Okay, AI could do it smarter than me. Okay, kind of things, and that's the beautiful response that I can make with people is it's your assistant. Okay, you will do better with it than you would on your own, but it can't replace you. So use it to enhance what you like doing. And it's part of the education, training, learning platform that you have. And for crying out loud, I've never experienced anything like it in my life. The past 2 years, from an education, training, learning perspective, I pay $20 a month. And I am getting some of the best materials I've ever had to enhance my skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a virtuous, wonderful thing, okay, if you use it properly.
And that's the key. It's if you use it properly, because what AI will do is it will amplify what's already there. And if you're using it in a lazy way, if you're not checking it, if you are not looking for multiple sources and you are putting in weak and venal prompts, you will get exactly back what you put in, only amplified and multiplied by the thousand.
Yeah.
So just be very cautious.
Well, yes, and it's the engineer in me, okay, but we called it Giga, okay, garbage in, garbage out,
Yep.
okay, that's what you get, and
Well, as a thought partner, it's spectacular if you're patient with it. And you need to be quite harsh with it as well, and make sure that it doesn't give you flattery and pandering. So one tip is ask it to operate at temperature zero, because if you let it go, to 4, 5, 6, 8, then you essentially get hallucinations. It's basically magic mushroom time. So just be very careful if you are using it, but use it to help you think better, and use it to give you access to, excuse me, use it to give you access to diverse ranges of thought, because that will give you perspective and take you out of the trap of being stuck in your perception.
absolutely, it's just I have good things that I can just say about the tools that I use. Okay, that are my computer assistants, and my wife she laughs at me when when I talk about some of the things we've done and where we've explored. But I wrote a book, yeah, but I'm an engineer at heart, and I do designs, and the design process with AI as an assistant, I literally can leverage myself. And what used to take a team of 6 to 8 support staff to implement some of my ideas, okay, I can do single-handedly. So it's major leverage, but
And in a
that's all.
fraction of the time.
Yeah, and it's all math. It's the mathematics and the modeling behind the math. That's what it excels at. And so you can just do things that used to take a long time. I can now do Python code, and I'm off and running. So that's the engineering world of it.
Well,
But
let's
that
get back
also
on.
played. You made me think of something here, okay? Because that programming, I have a graph in the book. It's called the Kmet curve, and it took me 3 months to make that graph. Okay, you look at it on one page in a book, okay? And I couldn't get the presentation right. I knew the numbers, I knew what I wanted to do, and I just kept iterating and iterating with AI until I finally got the presentation I wanted that I thought people could understand. So it was a gift in that respect.
So getting back on track with regard to finance, you mentioned ETFs. Many people probably won't be aware of what that means. What's an ETF?
Okay, an ETF is an exchange traded fund. And I have, for people that can tolerate a little bit of volatility in the markets, the ETFs that I recommend it's just one basic class of ETF. It's the S&P 500. It's the 500 biggest companies in the USA. You buy that, and that's all you have to do. And you'll make 10% or more. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, but it's volatile, and the beauty of what I recommend is you buy the S&P 500, and you make monthly contribution, okay, for about 10 to 20 years, and you will be fine. Okay, you'll come out with a revenue source that will sustain you for the remainder of your life. It's one fund, monthly contributions, boom, you're done. That's all you have to do.
Okay. I'll come back to that later in the conversation. There are obviously different types of funds. There are mutual funds, index funds, ETFs you already mentioned, actively managed funds, hedge funds, private equity funds, venture capital funds, and bond funds, and so on. How does one pick when you're completely green to this?
Okay, well, my algorithm is pretty simple here. Okay, if you're young and you can tolerate the volatility of the markets, you buy the S&P 500, and you just go with that. And if you're a little bit risk averse, even if you're young, you buy a balanced fund that is 60% stocks, 40% bonds, and actively managed. And the active managed component, it's not so much that the ETFs can't do this and all that, but the active management does all the sort of the little nitpicky stuff that you need to do, like the asset allocations and the redistributions of dividends and income, all the complexities of the things that go into running a fund. They will keep it at 60-40, and all you do is just put money in, and that's all you have to do. And that's what I look for: simplicity in investing with a very, very high probability of a good return over a lifetime. Not measured in days or years, but over a lifetime, over decades.
Okay, because again, the data that I've seen, often you're better off with an index tracker rather than a managed fund, because the performance over time is generally better. But what you're buying in an index tracker is shared failure, whereas if you're buying into a managed fund, you're buying isolated failure. Is that a fair way of looking at it?
Well, no, because the S&P 500 has never failed. Okay, so there's no failure there. It will go, and it will go up. Okay, just keep tracking it all the way back. I think the numbers I've looked at, go back decades and decades, and you just track this thing out. I think the number now for the S&P 500 from inception, somewhere around 11 or 12%, and well managed asset allocation funds between stocks and bonds. There are funds out there that for the past 20, 30 years have delivered 10, 11%, okay, with a mix. And the active management of those with the funds that have the track record. It's exemplary. So I'm not here to promote funds, but if you go out and look for best return balanced mutual funds for the past 2 decades, okay, they'll pop up on your AI investment criteria. It's easy to find. I'll share a symbol that our family has been involved with for multiple decades. It's a Fidelity fund, FBALX, FBALX. It's a performer. It's a steady performer, and you could live off of it. It's a real nice guy.
Well, we're entering into a period of significant volatility. If we look at issues like the wealth inequality gap, the extraction that occurred over the last 18 months or so, it looks like, certainly as a non-expert, but it does look like the investment market isn't necessarily as free as perhaps it could be. And if you look at the fundamentals on the S&P 500, there are about 8 companies that are dramatically driving that performance, and many of them are doing buyback schemes. So, when the tariff war started, the middle class lost around 10% of its wealth across the developed world. And the net result of that was that many of these very deep-pocketed funds and high net worth individuals bought the dip, but the middle class had a large chunk of their savings extracted. And we're seeing that volatility and that risk, but I'm not sure that we've really got to grips with exactly how those mechanics are working. So I am curious about your thoughts on this, given current situation and what's likely to happen over the next 2 or 3 years.
Oh, okay, well, I cannot predict the future. Okay, and all I could do is talk about some of the events of the past that I have weathered the storm of. And I went through it was an incredible period, the 90s, if you can go back to that time. Okay, it was called the dot-com run, and it came to an end in 2000, 1999, 2000, and the market drops on that, okay, were dramatic. So if anyone were totally invested in if you bought in the S&P 500 around that time, I think the number that came out, if you bought at the peak, you would have had to have waited 7 years to regain parity, okay, with your investment. Now, that said, if you bought at the peak of the dot-com bust, the returns now, okay, 30 years later, okay, you're still up over 10% on your investment. Okay, so even when you take something as dramatic as that, and you have the discipline to just stick with it, okay, and wait it out, okay, the markets come back. That's the hard part. It's the discipline is the hard part. You look at the statement that comes in and you go, oh my God. and the hardest thing to do, and what I ask people to do routinely, is when things are down, keep putting that money in every month. Don't stop. Just keep putting it in. Just keep going. Perseverance, perseverance, perseverance. And in time, and in most corrections are recovered in 2 to 3 years. So you're not talking like a big event like the dot-com. Most are relatively short-lived, 2 to 3 years. And in the meantime, as that money is going in, you're buying the dip. Okay, ever so gradually, okay, you're increasing your wealth. So hard to see it, okay, because the statement is less than what you bought into, but give it a little more perspective and a little more time, you're going to come out looking pretty darn good. And your support for your second revenue stream or third revenue stream for financial independence is going to be right there with you. It's difficult to do individual stock symbol picks if you do not have the mathematical and financial background to at least do a fundamental analysis on the stock that you're going to buy. So I ask people to not buy individual stocks if they don't have the skill set to buy them. So the next avenue is that you go to is, and this is the one where the main loss of money comes from on the investment side is you don't have the skill set to do it yourself, but you listen to somebody else tell you what to buy. Okay, that is the biggest danger in individual stock picking. Is just going with the rumor of the day or somebody talking on CNBC, to do this, to do that. So if you go down that road of individual symbols and you're not well prepared to play in that game, you're going to lose. It's a certainty. Okay, you might get lucky one or two times, but averaging out, you're going to lose. It won't work.
Okay. Well, from my conclusions so far is that most financial advice works really by reducing choice, and it tells people what they can safely ignore. And I'm curious about what gets ignored when we optimize for safety and what that costs people when the environment changes.
Oh, okay, well, I think I can answer this. Safety is 5%. Okay, you can do safety at 5%, and that's not the issue then. Okay, and I grew up in this 5% world. It was actually about a 3 to 4% world when I was growing up. My grandparents and parents were bond investors. They came out of the Depression era. They wanted nothing to do with stocks. Okay, okay, and that wasn't the right answer for them, but they stayed with bonds. But with bonds, you eliminate all uncertainty about losing the principal, and you gain a little bit of interest along the way. And what it does is, if you're a bond investor, whatever you could do in bonds, you could probably do in half the time if you do it with a balanced stock and bond mutual fund. It's a question of playing with time. So the funds that deliver the 10% return are going to get you half the time to reach your goal. So it's your choice. Okay, play it ultra safe and live with less money. Or take a little bit of risk, okay, for a slightly greater return and a little bit more on the financial freedom side, and manage through the ups and downs of the market cycles and the black swan events that happen, and they do happen.
Okay, so again, what would you tell someone who where their perseverance has turned into exposure?
Turned into a what?
Turned into exposure.
Exposure?
Yeah, so they've got their statement. There's been a black swan event, or at the moment we're seeing geopolitical challenges that will have a knock-on effect on supply chains. There's the battle over resources.
Okay.
That potentially can have a devastating effect on investments.
Right. Well, and I'll say it again. Okay, you buy into a good balanced fund, and through all these events that are happening, the good and the bad, you just keep putting money into it monthly as best you can, and you ride it out. That's it. That's the answer. It's that simple. The world is really screwed up. But in spite of that, I don't know why this happens. I mean, we live in a screwed up place, okay? But the markets always go up, okay? And bonds, if you buy good ones, they always pay their interest. And for some reason, those two things keep happening. The good bonds pay interest, and markets go up, and you just keep putting money into it every month, and you ride that certainty.
Okay, so let's move on to pathways to income in the book. What did you mean by that? And could you give us some examples?
Yeah. Well, let's start with the example I see most often is, hey, go back to your teens and you say, okay, what am I going to do to earn some money in this life? Okay, to make expenses after mom and dad kicked me out or something like that. And so that's what Pathways to Income is all about, is finding yourself so that you can engage in meaningful, productive work. How you do it? The most probable path for most people is trial and error. You get your first job and you find out some things about that job that you really like, most people like the paycheck, but they don't like to do what they have to do to get the paycheck. So you move on to your second job. So there's a little bit of bouncing around and experiential knocks that shape you in the early years until you find that path in life that you're comfortable. You enjoy the work that you're doing. You found a groove. And once you found that groove, you just go at it. But the way to find it is by experience, is to get out there and engage in the workplace, do different jobs until you find it, and then develop your skill set to support it. That's my advice to most people, and I've seen it work time and time again.
Well, my observation is most of us don't actually manage money. We manage anxiety, we manage hope, we manage status and fear through money. And I'm curious how that shows up in the way you think about it.
I agree with you completely, Marcus. People don't manage money. Okay, it's so far removed and on behaviors to adopt. Okay, there are a couple. There's like 3 or 4 of them there that have to do with money management. Okay, and the first thing that drives money management is to actually have some. and, and have the desire to hang on to it and grow it. Okay. Once you've reached that point in life where you have some money and you would like to have more money and you would like to learn how to grow it and sustain it. Okay, well then you've that's personal development and personal responsibility, and you're on your way because with AI now, okay, just a couple of keystrokes away, okay, and you've got all the tools you need to manage your own little strong box of cash, okay, or actually your own investment fund, okay, but it's there and it's easy. But start with money, start with a job, get some money, invest it. Well, okay, grow a ghost account so that you have a revenue stream that's running right beside you through life.
When people talk about financial independence, what do you think they're really hoping for?
Aha. Boy, that one is, I've been engaged in group discussions, okay, about what is financial independence. Of course, you know my definition. It's multiple revenue streams. And then I follow for multiple revenue streams to do whatever you want with it. I'm a Rotarian, and one of the fellows in my group said it's $2 million. Okay, and I said no. Okay, financial independence is not a number. Okay, is because the revenue streams scale with what you want to do with your life. Okay, so if you have these multiple revenue streams in place, and you're comfortable with your state of existence, okay, you're going to do fine. Okay, I know people that can do multiple revenue stream living, okay, at $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and they're really happy. Okay, for some others, they're going to want more than that. Okay, and it's a personal choice, but it's having the money coming in consistently where you're not losing any sleep over financial issues. Then you're financially independent. And I'll add one more to this. At my age, okay, I hear so much about, and this is the PR stuff that's going on out there. Plan for retirement, plan for retirement, plan for retirement. You need this much money for retirement. Well, I have seen it time and time and time again where people age into retirement, they quit working, they sit around for a few years, and they don't know what to do with their lives.
Pay medical bills.
Hey man, that's a really crap way to look at checking out, isn't it?
It is. And
it
died
really
at 30,
is.
buried at 70.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And if you have and what happens to folks is when you start talking about retirement planning, okay, is when you retirement plan, you start assuming that you might have a couple of years off from working, okay, but kick back in, okay, you're going to get bored, you're going to find something else to do, and you're going to probably have another revenue stream in retirement because you got bored, okay, of doing nothing. And it's a pathway that a lot of retirees that I know have just followed.
Well, I've got 2 questions that I think are really interesting. What does money give people a sense of control over that they don't actually control?
Well, I have my personal example, okay, or my personal viewpoint of it, and it has to do with the word freedom, okay. Uh, I have sufficient funds to do in life what I want to do, and I'm really really happy with that, okay, because if I see something that I want to do, I generally can see through how I'm going to be able to finance or pay my way to do it. So it's that simple, and that scales with personal desires. Some people want to do things that don't cost as much. Some people do things that cost more. Okay, it's part of our pay to live game that we play in life.
Well, I, I'm curious about this. I mean, how much of people's money-related behavior is shaped by who they compare themselves to?
Well, that goes back to the sin of envy, right? If you're doing a comparative analysis and you want your life to look like someone else's life, you're playing a losing game. That's a certainty.
Interesting, because I'm curious. In your case, when did your relationship with money first become emotionally charged?
I grew up with it, Marcus. I had that good fortune. I grew up with a lot of people that were uh, good managers of money, hard workers, investors. Uh, it was an environment that I grew up in. So if everyone could have the good fortune that I had for the environment of growing up uh, in a on a farm in rural Pennsylvania, 7 miles from the next little small town, okay, with a bunch of smart people and industrious, okay, that's a winning game. Okay, it was the roll of the dice and the good luck for me that got me to where I started. So I never had an issue with money from the get go.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. When markets shift, what emotions do you see people reacting to more than the numbers and more than common sense?
I see fear. I see a lot of fear, and I see panic, and I see missed opportunity. So at the time to invest is when things are cheap. Buy low, sell high. Markets do get cheap. So instead of selling, you do the opposite. You buy. But if you're consumed by fear and uncertainty and doubt, okay, the FUD principles, you can't act. So there's one of two things happen. You're consumed by FUD. You don't act, or if you do act, you act in the wrong way and you sell. That is the losing combination,
Yeah.
and it happens so often. It happens so often.
Well, I think often it's a fear of regret that drives people. And so they sell out when the market's bottoming out, and then they live to regret it. And then they see other people investing and they buy into the bubble. You saw it in the 1700s with the tulip bubble. You saw it in the dot-com. I think as human beings, we are largely emotion driven and we're not rational. And the beauty of having a long-term strategy is that the decision is already made for you. Each month you put your $20 in or whatever it is,
Right, right.
and you keep doing that consistently over time, whatever happens to the market. But in the moment, if you're paying attention to those reports, then volatility triggers your anxiety and your fear, and you're anticipating regretting not getting out sooner.
Well, absolutely, and the trap that folks get into too is they think they have control of this. They don't. You have no control over the markets. They're going to do what they're going to do, and all you can do is keep putting the money in. Okay, and then when it comes time to take it out, you start taking it out.
So, what do you think people are really buying when they chase returns?
ah, it's personal choice again. how the perception forms. Are they buying a vision of a life that they're not leading presently, that they can lead in retirement? That seems to be one that I see, where folks are putting away the money now so that they'll have this pot of gold, that they could do things when they're in their 70s. Okay, and who knows if they'll ever get there. But I think I think there's a perception that there's something out there, that after you quit your job, that there's something better, and they're working to achieve that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Does it?
Your strategy involves delegating to others. Now, for a lot of people, that sense of potential risk of handing responsibility to someone else creates all sorts of psychological dissonance. And I'm curious, what should people understand before they delegate their money to somebody else?
Well, they certainly need to understand that they pick someone that's responsible and that has proven capabilities in managing other people's money. Fortunately, in this day and age, finding those responsible, high quality providers is not that difficult to do. It's in my book. I list 10 of them, but you can do it yourself. Just to go out there, and I said it earlier in the conversation, is what I advise people to look for is 60% stocks, 40% bonds, and the funds that have done well for at least 2 decades in managing that mix. And put your money into that. You'll be all right.
Okay, I'm going to look at people at the other end of the spectrum. So people of my age, maybe paid off their mortgage, and for them, owning their house has a really strong emotional pull. But what I'm seeing more often, and I've reached that point where the old age pensioners companies are pitching me, is choosing to go down the equity release pathway. What does that say about how people understand security, time, and ownership?
Well, you touch on a really, this is an excellent point, because I talk to my peer group, okay, the old geezers, okay, but
Silver foxes, I think.
but the owning your own home free and clear is a revenue stream. That counts as a revenue stream, big time, okay, because when you look at what it would cost you to have a roof over your head, okay, and all of the benefits that you get from that home at no cost to you, okay, that's a significant revenue stream for you. And the fact that you have no mortgage means that you don't have to pay anybody to live in your house. So you have that freedom. That is a segment of being financially independent. I can't stress that enough, about how it's emotionally lifting to live in your own house that's paid for. And when you get there, you've really achieved something. So to trade that, and reverse mortgages, the take out the equity loan, okay, to do whatever this, okay. People want access to your money, okay, that's all. And they just want a piece of the action. And if you're living in that house and you're not doing anything with it, okay, they can't access your money. So that's why you're getting all of the advertisements.
Well, it's interesting.
Keep it up.
I've got no desire to take money out of the house now. We paid it off. But interestingly enough, at a generational level, it's used to be where younger people would get money to be able to buy their own home through parents or grandparents dying and leaving it to them in their will. But with equity release, that disappears, and so that further compounds the pressure that millennials and Gen Z and Gen Zero, or whatever they are,
Right.
going to face. And
Yes.
I'm curious about what ongoing impact that's going to have in terms of shifting wealth away from the middle and working class to those who already have money. Because what we're seeing, certainly in the UK, is private equity firms are now moving very strongly into retail housing. They've already got our supply chain, they've got our food chain, they've got our farms, they've got our utilities, and now they're moving into retail housing, which inevitably causes inflation because whenever they move into a category, it drives up the price. So I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
Well, I think we both know the motivation here. They want access to the asset value now, and through this mechanism and structure, they're getting it. So yeah, you lose control. Okay, and the wealth passes to the corporation and not to the individual. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I've got
It's
three
sad.
daughters. Yeah, well, I've got three daughters under 25,
Yeah.
and my eldest is looking for a house at the moment. And for her to get onto the housing ladder, you know, she's having to pay prices that we paid in our mid to late 30s in her early 20s. So they entered the workplace already at a disadvantage, at a lower level of comparative income.
Mhm.
And everything seems to be much more expensive. And then you've got the specter of inflation that's come back since interest is, money's no longer free, or as near as damn it. And so, that sets them back, what, 15, 20% from when they start. So it seems to be a really tough environment for people. And if they're going to make these long-term investment decisions, that must be coloring their decision-making process. And many of them are probably thinking, well, sod it, is it really worth it?
Well, precisely. It's at the point where the system now is being structured. Everybody likes cash flow. And so you raise the prices up sufficiently on the asset that people value, but they can't afford to buy outright. But they can't afford to make the monthly payments, and that's what's happening in real estate. We're turning. I guess it's in the UK. It's certainly here. The U.S. is turning into a significant nation of renters versus homeowners. The home ownership is going down, and it's being structured that way through the value of the asset. And once that value of the asset was determined on Wall Street, and you start working the numbers, it's a force that's going to be with us for a long time.
Yeah. It's just scary seeing that what was something that you could count on. And even with the ups and downs, if you stayed in for long enough, it would recover.
Yes.
But if you're starting out on your back foot and there's increased extraction and rent taking, increased volatility, and the wealth inequality gap is widening, it feels like most of the money advice that works by reducing choice is a trade-off. And you get relief from simplicity and you pay with your agency and delayed recognition. Um, but if your plan depends on you being able to just keep contributing, you got to make sure that your life can survive the years when you can't.
That's right.
Um, and so it's hard to define what you're trading away in those under those conditions. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts that you're talking about the need for multiple revenue streams, because you mentioned the times when you can't. Okay, that's where you need your sidekick, so a revenue stream there to support you through that critical time, so that you can then resume normal activity. Uh, the, the whole concept of a ghost account, if you're in an environment, okay, particularly for a couple uh, with two incomes from a job and two ghost accounts, you can work away one for a period of time and weather the storm. For an individual, it's tighter. They may have to seek some outside support, but if they have a good investment account at their disposal, and they have a storm to weather, they're in a heck of a lot better shape that way than they would be without it.
A,
So,
a thought crossed my mind. Um, if the market's going down, would your advice be to stop putting money into that account until it's reached the bottom? Because if you're putting a
oh,
thousand
no,
away,
absolutely not. If the market's going down, you're just putting money into that account nonstop. just keep going. Every month, whatever your monthly allocation is, you just keep putting it in. And go. Time will reward you. You may not believe it, but time will reward you.
Well, that then speaks to how we're not really managing money. We're managing fear, status, and time through money.
Yes, you are.
And if we're making decisions to avoid a harder conversation with ourselves, we've found the real risk. And you don't change your strategy until you say what you're really trying to protect.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and now the other, we talk about, we're finding someone else to manage our hard-earned money type things, but the thing that goes with people is after you make a selection of someone that's going to do this for you in a mutual fund, as time goes on, you're going to develop a sense of confidence in the organization that you're working with, and once you have that, then a lot of the fear and uncertainty and doubt about where that money is going, is removed from your monthly contribution that you make to that account. So day one, you're going to worry about it. You might lose some sleep, but if you're with the same organization and the same fund for about 5 years or so, confidence develops, and you're working with good people that are good custodians of your hard work.
So final question then, what's the one lie you see ordinary people telling themselves about money that keeps them compliant and it would cost them to stop believing it?
One lie.
Well, you can give me more than one, but just give me a whopper.
Well, it's belief in yourself to do the right things with your money you earn, but at the same time, understanding your weaknesses. And that might be a complicated statement for people, but most people have a really good drive built into them to do well, and they will do well. But at the same time, they have to understand that they can't do everything, and particularly in the matter of investment accounts, to find a good organization that can help them achieve their objectives. And then that organization for me is a good quality mutual fund with a good track record.
So which weaknesses ruin people more often? Believing they can't do much, believing that they'll do well without a system that protects them from themselves. And what's the one rule you'd make them live by the next time fear, envy, or ego shows up in a money decision?
Okay, well, the important aspect here, and I see this I've seen it with my kids, I've seen it with myself, I've seen it with the grandkids, is staying the course. Do you have the discipline to stay the course? Believe in what you're doing, stick with it, and keep going. That's the way to the finish line, and hard to do for some people.
Well, let's wrap up on that. Ron, thank you, first of all.
Okay, this has been an engaging chat, Marcus. I hope we get to do it again.
Thank you.
I would like to be in the UK and have you as a neighbor.
I'm pretty sure you wouldn't.
Oh, I don't know.
How can people get hold of you?
I'm pretty easy to find. Well, number one, my last name, Kmetovicz, Kmetovicz. You throw that into any search engine, you'll find me. Okay, there's nobody else with that one. And but my book is Ghost Money, the book, GhostMoneyTheBook.com. That's the website, and Ghost Money, the book, on Amazon. That's all I do. Is I'm doing this as a public service to get the book out there to help people. You just type in the search on Amazon, Ghost Money, the book, and you'll find Ghost Money, the book.
Excellent. Ron Kmetovicz, thank you.
Pleasure.
So this is Marcus Kauke, once again, wrapping up for the Inquisitor podcast. If you found this useful, then please do like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're curious about how you can develop your financial independence, then get the book, speak to Ron, don't speak to me. I'll help you make money, but not necessarily invest it. And in the meantime, stay safe, happy investing and happy selling. Bye-bye.